Welcome to Deciphering Distortions, the second in a series of 12-part podcasts by the Grand Council, brought to you by Ancient Future Today.
So it is that we join all of you of this fine day and look forward to a bit of a narrative on our part about honesty. And while we are deciphering distortions, which is the overarching theme of this particular podcast series, we are looking at honesty within distortions and honesty that can be deciphered. And there is a very easy way for you to find what is honest within distortions. And this is something that we call True North in our mastery work in AncientFuture.Today. True North is something that is very much patterned after the idea of true north showing up on a compass. Whereas you may think you are facing north, or you are facing due east or due west or due south, and you know, or you think you know where true north is, until you actually measure it with an instrument that is calibrated to the actual true north. And there will be those who will say, do you mean magnetic, or do you mean polar, or whatever? What we mean and what we are referring to is your spiritual, metaphysical, galactic, higher self, greater soul, oversoul, true north. And so this would not be pointing to the Arctic on your planet. It would be pointing somewhere in the multiverse to perhaps your home planet, if you believe in those things, perhaps to God, if you are a God-related person who believes that God is the only truth, or God's word is the only truth, to your guides and angels, for those of you who follow that guidance as truth, or whatever it may be, matters not, other than it is your truth. Other than when others are following their truths, that you do not feel threatened, that you must believe what they believe in order to be in truth. That when others believe whatever they believe to be true, that you know what is true for you, and you feel that you can live your life according to that. Whether you say it out loud or whether you go along with the crowd and you maintain your own truth within whatever is happening is definitely your own strategy for how you survive and hopefully how you thrive in your lives as well. The main thing is that you must find a way in your lives as you grow yourselves up from being wounded children or from dysfunctional families or even a happy child. You must still grow up to be adult if you are going to achieve anything that is more than just playing around in a lifetime. And with that, having true north as your honesty allows you then to navigate through all of the different distortions, all of the different myriad choices that present themselves to you regularly. And we dare say in the chaos of your world these days that this will continue for some time, if not for so long that it will become the operational normal, that there will not be again the sort of groupthink that the world has had. For so long, the world believed the USA self-promotion and self-aggrandizement, that it was the greatest nation on earth. And everyone wanted to visit and or live and or study and or holiday or whatever, buy American, do and be American, until everyone figured out that, and the last of all, the Americans figured out, that there was a different talk than there was the walk. That the talk of being peace bringers was everything other than that overseas. For indeed, the USA was leading in corporations of taking out rare earth minerals and other sorts of earth resources from nations that had no say in it, pretty much, because they were not militarized or they were not wealthy enough to complain. And in fact, they were seduced by the money that was thrown at them for these exchanges of resources for resource financial for earth resources otherwise. There were the nations that knuckled under to the US to have air bases on their properties in their nations in exchange for protection. And of course, then there was always the invasion of the local culture, even though it was not supposed to occur, it did. Ask Okinawa what they think about how that worked out for them. If you do not know, it is an interesting story. And so it goes. And for decades, for a long time, America, and we dare say even maybe for more than just decades, America has been seen to be the land of the free and the home of the brave. And some of the other nations have had their branding equally in place and well-deserved, at least from the efforts to brand themselves. America has been ahead of the pack in the entire modern iteration of honesty with distortion. And so now, as America begins to reveal itself for what it really is in the chaos, there are many disappointed people around the planet, even though they knew already that there were disparities and distortions in the stories that the US would spin about itself as a great nation where everyone was equal and life was easy and good for everyone as long as you were willing to work hard, and not easy in the sense of not working hard, easy in the sense of being able to be successful if you were willing to work hard, etc., etc. Whilst really most Americans knew that that was only a story, and yet conspired to keep the story in place because it was as good a story as there was on the planet at the time, as far as anyone could see. Whilst other nations that were not so busy trumping their horns or trumpeting their horns, let us put it that way, were, let us say, Scandinavia, getting on with things where the quality of life really is good for everyone. Yes, the tax structures are very high, the populations are very modest, and the cultures are very monochrome in many ways. And even if the colors are mixed, the behaviors are very predictable and very compatible in many ways. And so depending on what flavor of ice cream you are after for your cone, you could find that there would be this very jumbled sort of chocolate chip with all sorts of sprinkles and sauces, etc., from the US. And then you would go to Scandinavia and have a very pure vanilla or chocolate or pineapple or some other flavor that would be more easily discernible, perhaps not quite as exciting or quite as confusing in an exciting sort of way. And yet. So where does this leave us with honesty in distortions and in deciphering distortions? Well, it takes us back to true north. If you are a person who really knows who you are, and you are open to possibilities that you could be wrong about how other people really are and about how the world really works, you are probably a person who will thrive in chaos, especially if you are relying on your own true north to lead you down this path of discovery that all of you are on now. And if you are a person that needs to be right, is rigid to new thinking, even though you may be honest to who you think yourself to be, you may not find the journeys in the years ahead of you to be so easy after all. And we would wish it to be so for all of you, that when you find your true north, that it does not become the pole around which you hang everything, that you hang on to yourself, that you hang your beliefs and your value systems and your my peeps, your peeps sort of separation thinking on, that rather you hold it as one would in a bit of a storm. You were on a ship, let us say, and there was a big hurricane blowing out on the ocean, and your true North Pole was very stable and anchored into the boat itself that was getting thrown around by a storm and being sent away from the land. And where you could hold on to that pole and say, my truth is that I will survive. One way or another, I will survive this storm. And if I die, that does not mean that I do not survive, for I know who I am, and I am honest to who I am, no matter what is happening in my life, or where I find myself in domicile, or where I am a refugee, or I am or whatever I may be someday when I least expect it. I will not give up my true north, because that is how I find my way home to my honest self. Maybe not your way home to your country, maybe not your way home to your people, maybe not your way home to what was comfortable for you at one point and hasn't seemed to be for some time. And yet that honest, true north orientation is what will allow you to navigate as much in sweet ease as possible and as successfully as possible for yourself and for those who are also following their true north honesties. So this may be a bit obtuse for those of you that do not understand true north. And if it is, we would invite you to learn through the Ancient Future Today sort of philosophy about what this is and how it works and how you find it and how you hone your relationship with your true north, and how you allow it to help you be the navigational tool that brings you from point A to B to C on your blueprints as masters on masterful journeys. So please, above all else, be at least honest with yourself. Bring your talk and your walk, both your internal talk about who you tell yourself you are, and your external talk, who you express yourself to be in the world, and your walk, so that if anybody were able to watch you 24/7, they would see you living congruently. And that is as good a definition of honesty as we can possibly come up with in a very short period of time. And for now, we send you with our love and every blessing. And adieu.
Thank you for listening. Please join us for future podcasts on this same channel.